Hey, Jimmy Tick here with Phoenix Home Inspections, bringing you a little project that I'm doing here at home, and that is replacing a medicine cabinet. Now, I almost didn't want to do this video because I figured it would be too simple, but unfortunately I took a lot of things for granted. And after looking at my cabinet, I realized, yeah, it's probably a good thing I'm showing you guys this video. So what I've got going on here, if I switch my views over here, if you look at this cabinet here, this is actually I've got this installed as a surface mount. You can actually recess it. So what I'm going to do is probably recess it. Now my cabinet that I've got down here on the floor, this one here, it's a really nice cabinet. The thing is, before you go out and buy a cabinet, you kind of want to know a few things about cabinets. The studs, when they're framed, they're set on 16 inches on center. This thing is 20 inches wide. So the problem is I'm going to have to actually cut this drywall out and make this 20 inches and actually cut the studs to be able to make that fit. But let me back up a little bit here. So when you look at your sink, in theory, because the way these are designed is you want to cut a hole and it slides in, and then you run your screws into your studs. Like on this cabinet on the sides, if this is recessed in, it's got holes for you to screw it in, and it's also got holes for it to be surface mounted, which is what this is. Problem is with a pedestal sink, it doesn't come out that far. This comes out, so by recessing it in, it's going to give it a totally different profile. And if you go buy a medicine cabinet, if you get one that's just 16 inches wide, literally you should be able to just cut a hole in your drywall, measure it, center it. But before you do that, what I want to take note is, you see I've got electrical up here, and of course you got plumbing down here. There's a good chance that if you cut into this wall, there could be plumbing, electrical wiring that will prevent you from being able to set this in the wall. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this down, cut me a little like access hole here, and then I should be able to see if there's any electrical wiring or plumbing before I get carried away and cut all this out to slide this in. That way, if there is wiring and plumbing and you're like, okay, I'm going to bail on this project, that's fine, because you could just go ahead and surface mount this back. No big deal, you won't see the hole. Now, understanding cabinets, the reason why I want to stop here is, let me show you this cabinet down here. 20 inches, where's my tape measure? The thing is, like I said, I measured this out. This is what's going to go inside. It's 20 1/4. So I'd have to go 20 1/4 wide. And of course the height. But what's giving me fits is, I don't know if you can see it on tape measure, it's roughly about 5 1/8 in depth. To make sense of this, 5 1/8 depth is a 2x6 wall. Most homes are 2x4 construction. Now, my home does have some 2x6 walls, but primarily it's 2x4s. And this interior wall, I can tell you it's a 2x4, mainly because I've got the drop ceiling out and I can see the studs. And the other thing is I framed these walls. So if I wouldn't mount this, even though it's 5 inches, a 2x4 is not 4 inches. It's more like 3 1/4. Then you add that 1/2 inch drywall. Even though it's on both sides, you're not going through that backside. You're just going to be flush. So you got 3 1/4, and then your 1/2 inch on that. That puts you like at what, 4 1/4. So I'm going to have about 3/4 of an inch gap between this flashing here. So it's not going to work unless I want to really cut everything and make it smaller. And that's, at that point, you might as well buy a new. You need to buy a new thing. But so a 2x4, I'm looking at 3 3/4. So this here, if I cut this, slide it in, I'll still have a little bit of space between it and the thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say on this, pull this off and recess it. But like I said, this cabinet here happens to be designed for a 2x6 wall. So when you go buy a cabinet, you want to make sure that you get the correct depth. Now the problem is I have no clue where my wife bought this, and it's been sitting in the basement for about 1.5 years, and I hadn't got around to installing it. So just don't go to the store and buy a cabinet without knowing if it's designed for a 2x4 wall or a 2x6 wall. Save you some money. But anyway, I want to pause this and then let me pull this out. Okay, so I've already went ahead and made my access hole, and this is why I'm glad I did that, because I'm going to, I'll record with this so that way you can actually see the video. But see what I'm looking at. I've got my copper lines right there, and then I've got a vent pipe that is literally right here. My stud is right here. So all my plumbing is right here. So 16 inches would be from here to here. So my sink is not quite square with my studs. So you would have to undo your sink, move it over, square it up, cut my vent pipe, put a couple 45s, or I'm sorry, a 90, bend it over, up, over, and then cut my water lines, sweat them, because it's copper, and move them out of the way to make the sink work. So guess what? I'm done. So I'm going to take my sink, go back to my hollow wall anchors, mount it back up, and then I'm done. But so hopefully showing this little part will keep you from getting into a bind like what I was about to get into. Okay, so I'm back. I got the green light. Wife said I can go ahead and surface mount it. Because she's like, don't worry about replumbing it. So what I went ahead and did is, I know my studs right here. I'm coming up here. I measured from the top of the cabinet, it's 30 inches tall, which would put it about here. So I'll have 5 inches of clearance between it and the lights. And then I measured down 2 inches, and then I used a level to run me a line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually cut me a hole, a strip, going across from here to the other stud, which I'm going to measure and make sure I am not going to be past the cabinet. So the thought is I'll cut me a strip out like this, slide me a 2x4, and then on the cabinet where it has the base of it, here, I'm going to have it where I've got a place to actually make contact with my screw mounts. So I'm going to get busy, run my line over here, make sure I'm not going to be past my cabinet, and see if that works, because my vent pipe's here, but I've got enough space that I should be able to slide that 2x4 behind it and a drywall to be able to have a place to mount it. So we'll see what happens. Okay, so I wanted to show you where I'm at. So like I said, I've had some my plumbing vents are right behind here, plus my water lines. So what I did is I cut me a little access thing. I went a little too far because forgot about my overhang, so I put a piece here. So I've got to do a little bit of drywall repair, where down here I just didn't go over as far. I slid the 2x4 behind it. I used a Craig's jig, which gives me an angle, kind of like toenailing, if you will, ran screws. So the way this is set up, the way I did this is, you can put the cabinet here, and along the top and the bottom where it's got the plates, it'll hit here. You're going to hit something solid. You're not trying to hit your studs, but because of the way this is, I've got my laser level, I'm going to leave it here, so when I put this on here, I'll be able to hit it. Now, most people are not going to do this. Most people are going to set this up, get it square or where they want it, drill the holes on it, come in here, put hollow wall anchors, and screw them in there if you can't hit your studs. You'd be able to hit this stud, but here's what the problem is, because usually your studs are 16 inches on center. This was 14 and a half. I'm not exactly sure why it was done that way. And then over here, you're void and void. So I would be really close, and it would actually where my cabinet's going to line up, it's only going to hit the one stud. So I just cut this hole out to run my 2x4 in here to be able to have something to hit. Yeah, it's kind of handy, man, that nobody's going to really see it. And also, it's going to be pretty stinking solid by the time I get it in there. I may put a couple pieces of drywall just to flush this out. But I'm going to run in probably 1.75 to 2-inch screws into here. What I don't want to do is go all the way through this 2x4 because, like I said, I've got plumbing back here. So I want to make sure I'm short. So let me get it hung, and then that way I can show you what it looks like. Well, I'm glad I went ahead and mounted it up. I've got a little bit of touch-up work to do in the drywall. I think we're going to actually end up painting this bathroom anyway. But it works out pretty good. I've got it all leveled up. Had to move this board up a little bit. My measurement was off. I actually went down when I should have went up. But I was able to get that 2x4 down here a little bit more secured. But I've got it actually anchored at several points. This thing will hold a lot of weight the way it's mounted. Last thing I want to do is drill into the drywall, put hollow wall anchors, because this cabinet is pretty heavy. I wish I could have cut in and recessed this in. It's just one of those, whenever the house was built, from the walls. To be honest with you, I lived in a RV while we were building the house, and we finished this bathroom in like 3 days, so we didn't take in consideration of running the water lines down low. And even if we did, the vent pipe where my floor drains and stuff is actually coming right through here, which is behind the chase. So that's my luck. Anytime I've got an easy job, something that's supposed to be quick and easy, it always takes me 3 times as long because I've come up with problems that don't expect. But honestly, it's pretty well centered with the sink, the light. I've got it leveled. It'll hold a bunch of weight. I just wish I could have recessed it in the wall, but you know, it's what I had to deal with. But it looks up pretty good. We'll put a little bit of wood filler over here. I want to patch up this hole because I was trying to get all my screws and everything straight. I'm going to probably touch it up with a little bit of paint. But right now I just got to clean up, but hopefully you kind of learned some little tips and tricks going through this. Very simple project, but this project ended up being a little bit more difficult or more challenging than what it needed to be. But until next time, I'll catch you later. Thanks. Bye.